Deonte, welcome to the Greenlight Personal Training Fitness Business Podcast. Me and Jeff, I know, are thrilled to have you here. So welcome, man.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here with you guys, and it's a pleasure to be here to be able to share my story with the listeners here on you guys' podcast.
I don't think everyone's ever said that it's an honor to be on with us, Jeff. So I think
I'm gonna
that's
take it. I'm gonna take
that's
it and
that's
run.
kind of like the first.
And we're
Um,
out. Have a good one,
yeah,
guys. We'll
exactly.
see you
It's
next
an
time.
easy edit. Cool. Great. Well, we're thrilled to have you, man. We've known each other obviously for a little while now. You and your business partner Laken happen to be the first Greenlight franchise owners, so we thought it was fitting to bring you onto the podcast and just to understand your story a little bit more. All the way from when you started as a trainer to taking the step into gym ownership, and what were the trials and tribulations along the way. So why don't we kind of just start with that, man? Like, what got you into training? Let's bring it all the way back.
Yeah. For me, I kind of took like an odd approach. Like I went to school for mechanical engineering. I played basketball in college, and once I got done with school, it was, am I going into this career where I'm going to be sitting at a desk for 8 hours a day and inside, and at the same time, kind of there's some atmosphere that was happening around. I'm from Michigan, so like the big three was kind of going through the big change of like having to lay people off, and like I wasn't as secure as I thought I was going to be, like rolling out of college. So I ended up leaving Michigan and moved down to Virginia and just got a random job at a gym, and I started in sales that way. Yeah, so I was selling memberships, and part of it for me was like I get a free gym membership to work out, and and that's how it kind of started for me. Um, and then my manager saw me training in the gym and was like, "Hey man, like you should probably go ahead and get certified and start coaching people." So that's kind of the route that I took. I didn't go to school for like kinesiology or anything like that, but it just I just that's the way I started, and then from there it kind of grasped me and I kind of ran with it. You know.
So you kind of just like really enjoyed training just from being a basketball player and that sort of thing. Is that what you're saying? Is that
Yeah,
why you chose the gym? Because you could have said, I'm going to go get a job at a bar or something. You know what I mean?
yeah. I've always been active, so like
Okay.
leaving college, there was like a void in my training. Like I had the coaching, I had just some structure there. So I was like, all right, I need to figure out a way to keep this going. So I got the job at the gym, and then I started working out there kind of on my own. It wasn't the same as structure wise, but I was putting myself in the environment of continuing what I was doing beforehand.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So was it like a big box gym, or what style of gym were you working at?
Yeah, so I was working at this gym called Export Fitness. I think they're based in Chicago. But they had a few locations out here in Virginia, and I was working at a new location in Arlington. It was a smaller version of what they typically had, so it was like a nice community gym. Um, but that's where my personal training career kind of started off, and um, yeah, I was able to like just like the approach to fitness in that gym was very money driven, and I was able to learn how to sell really good through that gym. So I think that was one of the perks of being there. But I wasn't able to figure out how to like actually help my clients and coach them while I was there. So, um, which
Interesting. So what type of stuff were you selling? Like just typical training packages, or what was
packages,
the
implements, we always did like every year we'll do like a big weight loss challenge, and same people will sign up for it pretty much every year. They'll go through the challenge, they'll lose all this weight, and then kind of be back the next year um, to do it again because obviously the habits weren't there to help them sustain the weight loss long term. So
So tell me a
What
little
was?
bit more about
Oh
that
yeah.
then. Sorry, Jeff.
Go.
Like what was the struggle that you found? You know, I see this a lot. We see this a lot from PTs, right? Especially that work in bigger box gyms is, their ability or the boundaries at which they can work are very, very narrow. And it doesn't allow for like real change when it comes to impacting their clients. So can you talk a little bit more about kind of the struggles that you found as working in that type of gym?
Yeah, I felt for me it was more of the pressure to sell and to continually, like month over month, just get our clients to re-sign for the sake of re-signing and making sure that the business revenue was like the money was just always coming in versus us delivering a service that help our clients get results in a sustainable way that allow them to um, build the habits outside of the gym and then also see the value in the service that we're offering. So like it was more of a sales transactional relationship than um, us actually, I guess, coaching them to their goals, like, if that makes sense. Like obviously we were, training them in a gym, but like it wasn't like there was no like for us there was no like coaching or guidance around how to deal with some of the issues that these people were coming in with, right? It was just more like, all right, you guys, this person signed up for 40 sessions. Well, let's get them through that package as fast as possible, and then let's get them re-signed. Not like how can we solve this person's problem, as that was coming into the gym.
So
So
you sell them the dream, but you never deliver on it.
yeah, yeah, and like for newer trainers coming in, like I got to the point where I had to go outside of the gym to kind of figure out how I can help my clients better.
Mm.
Versus some of the trainers coming in was just like, this is the system, and it kind of fell on the veteran trainers to kind of take it upon themselves to help the new guys coming in. Like, hey, listen, you're gonna have to give your clients a little bit more coaching than just them showing up into the gym. Like that's part of the battle, but there's so much more that goes on outside of the gym that you can really help them and help them change their lives. And we weren't getting that from top down. It was corporate structure gym. So um, again, very money driven, but I guess
Was
how
there a was there a specific moment that kind of was the straw that broke the camel's back for you, or was there a catalyst to make a change, or what happened next for you?
um I wouldn't say there was a specific moment. I think I just got to a point where I saw my career. I was either going to, so there was two roads I was taking. I was either going to transition out of training because I wasn't able to, um, I got married and was getting ready to, start a family. I wasn't able to um, provide for my family the way I wanted to, given the amount of time that I was working. If you guys know what it's like those early days training, like you're training from 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. at night, and each day just kind of runs over to the next. So it was either transition to another career and figure out a way that I can provide for my family better, or leave the gym and start to do this on my own, and in a way that I was already doing it for my clients, and find a way to increase the amount of money that I was bringing in for my family.
So what would you say some of your earliest like mistakes were when you kind of decided to go out on your own? And where did you go? Did you go to like were you renting space or what did that transition look like?
Yeah, so the transition for me was I had a client at the time who had a friend who owned a private training studio in a little town down the road from us in Alexandria, and was willing to rent me space. So I rented space from him, and that's kind of just how I stepped outside of the gym. It was very nerve wracking and uncertain. There's a lot of uncertainty around like how I was going to get this going, but I had a handful of clients that wanted to come with me, and I mean that's all really I had. I would say some of the early mistakes that I made leaving was not valuing my services enough, and charging what I needed to charge to for the value that I was delivering to my clients, and then also not like getting guidance or mentorship earlier on in the process. Um, like when I first left, I got really lucky that I was able to grow through. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Thumbtack, but Thumbtack was like it's a like almost like a dating app for like services, right? So if you're a personal trainer, you can go in there, put your profile, and then there's people in your area looking for personal trainers. So they were very new, like when I first started, and like if someone was looking for a trainer, you can send a quote, but they limited it to like 5 people or 5 trainers that can send a quote to each person. So I had a 20% chance of getting that lead or getting that person to come in and talk to me. But then that one that kind of evolved a little bit to where at point it just started. It was kind of like the Wild Wild West, and it was like 100 people per quote. So, but I was able to grow pretty quickly just using Thumbtack. Um, and one other mistake that I made starting was not having like systems and operations and things that are kind of repeatable processes in order for me to scale and grow. Like I was a one man shop for the most part, kind of doing everything. So my growth was kind of stagnant because I didn't have anybody else there helping me, and I didn't have a way to um, bring somebody in and help. Like, all right, maybe you can coach a couple of clients, because I didn't have any systems or anything written down for them. So
So this
yeah,
is like sorry, this is like a common like evolution for PTs, right? They start out in a gym, they get their feet wet. Generally, they don't like it because of the either the pressure to make sales or the inability to kind of really affect their clients' lives, or even just the ceiling that's put on them from a financial earnings perspective.
hmm
And then, so just like you know, PTs come to a crossroads where it's like, okay, do I get out of this, you know, corporate gym and move into a corporate job? Or do I go out on my own and try to make a thing of this? I mean, now, you know, the online space is, you know, brimming with opportunity. So people are going there. But the other road that a lot of people take, and back then you took, was going and renting space from someone. So did you continue with that one-on-one model at that point? And you mentioned earlier that, you know, when you're working at the gym, you're, you know, dying from working 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. Did that change once you started renting your own space in another studio?
yeah. So I tried to change that. So when I got to the studio, I got to a certain point where I couldn't take on any more clients, and so I had a few clients that were kind of regulars at the same, not at the same time, but like close enough in the same time. So I started to like couple them together. Like, hey, you guys are going to come in at this time, and then I'll have another free hour. Then I'll have another 2 people come in at the same time. So I was starting to do kind of like an overlapping, kind of semi-private model. Um, the gym owner that was renting me space, he was like, so he was a partner in there in like the gym. So when I started doing that, he put me to the side, like, hey man, like I know you're growing, but like we only do private training here. We can't do semi-private. It doesn't match what we do. So then I said, like, we can kind of revisit like the lease, or like my agreement, and see if we can have some wiggle room and make this work. Otherwise, I can't grow, and I will have to, eventually leave and try to find another space. So we got to the point where they didn't agree that I could do semi-private model. So I ended up having to leave that space. And at the time, that time too, I was like my first kid was on the way. So instead of like going and renting like my own space, I was working out at a CrossFit gym at the time. I went on staff there and brought my clientele base to that gym, and just kind of worked for them as kind of like a contractor, um, and was able to kind of grow their PT business along with just still, have some income coming in for myself and for my family at the time that were, it was kind of crucial for us to have that coming in. So, um, yeah, so I guess I kind of hit the ceiling there, and then hit a wall of like, how can I grow? And then needed to pivot pretty quickly, with the circumstances changing in our family at the time. So it was kind of like I guess like a step backwards or a lateral step for me. But again, everything kind of happens for a reason. I learned a lot at that gym. I met one of my mentors there. I met Laken there, um, and things just kind of worked out very well for me after taking a step back.
Very serendipitous almost. So, we talk about personal trainers, kind of reaching these certain, milestones almost in the normal trajectory, it seems like. Why do you think that the training industry is, kind of like a come in and leave type of industry where it's like people have so much passion for fitness and they get involved in it and all of a sudden they see what it's like on the other side actually, doing it as a career, quote unquote, and just leave so quickly. Like it sounds like you got to a point where that was a possibility for you. And you were leaning towards it maybe. So, like, why do you think that is? Because Jeff and I, and with the whole mission for Greenlight, is like we're here to help stop that.
Right.
So, why do you think that is so, you know, evident?
I think part of it is just it's a grind, man. It's a grind, and there's a lot to take on for one person, right? If you're in these sessions with people, a lot of times these are like therapy sessions, right? You're sitting, you're with someone for an hour. A lot of times, I mean, I can't remember times like sometimes we don't want to work out, we just talk, right? So like it's a lot for one person to take on day after day after day. And honestly, the pay isn't that great for trainers starting out, and even when they do get really good, like it's not it's not comparable to like how you would accelerate any other career, right? Like you may, training is what $100 an hour in a good market, right? So then, if you're a really good trainer, then you might get 60 to maybe 70%. That's top end, and if you aren't, then you're getting like 40, maybe 50% of that. So I think part of it is that it's a grind, and you really have to be passionate for what you're doing, and then also the structure of the one-on-one model isn't really set up for um, I mean, as gym owners and or also personal trainers, it's not set up for. It's not a very, I guess, I don't want to say lucrative because it's not just about the money, but it's not a very
Scalable.
scalable system. You're not able to have a huge impact on these clients because I don't know. I feel like there's something about having 2 to 3 people working out at the same time where there's not a lot of room for conversation, although that is needed sometime. But what's needed more than that is just the movement and like I don't know. For me, that's kind of therapy for me. Then like talking about it is one thing, but then actually getting into the actual workout and getting stronger and seeing how like the work that I'm putting into the gym and the adversity I'm going through here kind of applies outside of the gym as well. So I think um, the sorry, I lost my train of thought there, but I think just the grind of the one-on-one model and the lack of growth within the gyms for the coaches is kind of why you see such a high turnover rate within these larger gyms.
Yeah, I want to go back a little bit to your when you're renting space.
Mhm.
What what ends up being the biggest kind of barrier there? Like why do trainers why do trainers flourish there sometimes, but why does that even become like, not the most ideal situation? Do you think it still comes down to the model that they're running? Like, yeah, they might be earning a little bit more because they're no longer working in a big box gym, which is taking the majority of the pay, but they just can't sustain maybe a lifestyle that they want with the financial resources they need, renting space. What's your kind of view on that?
Well, the transition from the big box gym to renting space is kind of like a lateral side step. It's a step up, right?
Hmm.
Because you're making a little bit more money, but your capacity is still the same. Like nothing really changes with how many hours there are in a day for you to coach, right? So then along with that, like your scalability is also very limited because you're renting space. You're not in a space that's your own. And again, like it's that's a big jump to go from working at a big box gym to go into your own space. So I think it's a necessary step that needs to happen. But it's also like you have to realize that it's just a temporary step to getting you to a point where, all right, I have maximized the amount of time that I can coach, and I need to start to take the next step to either finding somebody else to go in with the space with me, or getting my own space so that I can start to hire or I hire coaches to do some of the coaching for me, and I can start working on the other aspects of the business. But I would say that one of the biggest challenges I faced when I left was like you only have so much time as one person to coach, and you like the first thing that came to my mind was semi-private. I would just start doing this, but then you're also at the expense. You have to, kind of abide by the rules of the space that you're in. If there's something that they don't allow, or if they don't have the space for that, then you're kind of bottlenecked there. So it's a tricky situation because you have to leave the big box gym. But I feel like that's a really big step for a trainer to go from, training in a gym to having your own space. And maybe that's just my opinion on it too.
No, it's definitely like a leap. It's a huge risk, right? Any form of entrepreneurship, and that still is a form of entrepreneurship. There's a lot of risk that comes with it. There's like very little security in something like that. So like it sounds like that was, one of your major turning points. Like I doubt that you would have gone from on-floor trainer in a big box gym to owning your own facility. That doesn't sound like a very smooth transition kind of step. But it brings us to kind of where you are now. So, what do you think now that you're a gym owner, you have a chance to kind of look back on it. What do you think was your biggest barrier of making the leap then from renting space, having your own clientele, having your own business to gym ownership? Renting a facility in your name, it's your lease, taking on all the risks, in this case teaming up with a brand, having a business partner. What do you think was the biggest kind of barrier that was in your way, but you obviously got over and took the leap?
I think there was two, right? There was definitely like a knowledge barrier that I just didn't have, right? Because I haven't experienced it, I haven't gone through it, and it took us, really taking the time and deciding that we needed mentors and we needed coaches to kind of help us through this. And through that, like the belief kind of came along too. So like I would say the two things are the knowledge and then also the belief in ourselves that we could do this and that we belong in this space and that we are able to get into a space and make it work, right? So having coaches and having someone that's been through it kind of guide you and give you like a step-by-step process of how to get to where you're trying to go. I mean, coaches need coaches too, right? It's the same thing. Like we're in this business for a reason, and it makes everything so much easier for us. Like, I mean, sorry, I said the wrong word. Easy isn't easy, but it makes it so much more, I guess, less stress for us. Like to think about everything that we have to do. Like this is already put together for us. Like we just got to follow the plan.
Well, I got a question for you. What was the biggest thing that surprised you when you started opening and going down this path into owning your own gym? What's the biggest surprise?
I don't know. I feel I don't want to keep saying this, but it's like I had it within me the whole time to do it. It was just like it was the only thing that was holding me back was my own mindset around like whether I thought I could do it or not. You know, I mean, I think time and experience really played a big part of that. Played a big part of that. But at the end of the day, when I decided to take action, things just started happening.
I love that. I mean, you can quote that. But so let's talk about your mindset a little bit more then. Like you didn't struggle with your mindset, but you needed to come with the right mindset in order to make the decision to move into gym ownership. So now that you're 4 months? Yeah, 4 months into being open, how is your mindset different? if it is at all?
Yeah, I think it was a lot more stressful when we first opened, and not knowing, at the same time. So we just opened. The coaches we had, we just hired, so we knew them. They're great people, but we hadn't had a chance to like get them in there and really, because we just kind of, you guys know how it went. We kind of hit the ground running, right? Our
Hmm.
opening was delayed. Everything was just kind of like jammed into like a quick, really 2 3 month time frame, and it was a little nerve wracking going from, working out in your garage gym where there's no overhead, there's nobody else you need to worry about, to having your own space, and now you got to pay rent, and now you have coaches that you're responsible for, and you need to make sure that they are kind of an extension of you and your values. So in the very beginning, it was a little bit more stressful. It was a little more nerve wracking with all the uncertainty coming in, and we kind of opened around the holidays. And then something clicked January 1, man. I don't know what it was. It just started. It just started clicking for us, and I think it kind of came through like just doing the work, right? Like as we got into the space, we started to figure out like what's working, what's not working. I'm kind of in charge of the outreach and the leads flow, and so like getting on the phone call and talking to people, um, I don't know, it just kind of opened up for us. And I think for me, where I'm at right now with my mindset is like, this will only work if I work and if we work, and the action that we take day in and day out is going to be, work, like it's going to determine where we're going to be a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. Right? So certain things like calling 10 people a day, it seems very small, but I mean, people are just kind of falling into our gym right now, which it's,
Awesome.
Not a bad thing to have happen. Yeah.
yeah,
No.
yeah. So I don't know. I think my mindset is, I've always been a very optimistic person at nature, but it's like the sky is kind of the limit for us where we are right now,
Funny how those little things like calling leads and following up and how fast you do it, it can really make all the difference in the world, right? And
Yeah.
you can hear it 100 times, but until you experience it and you're in the grind and you get your repetitions in and you start seeing the success, I think
Mhm.
that's really where it starts to sink in, and then you start to really flourish like you guys are. So it's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in many ways, it's like a time horizon thing, right? Like you're never going to be as you can plan as much as possible, but it's always going to take a period of time in order for all the work and all like the fruits to bear, right? It's never going to come on opening day, and it's always going to take a certain period of time. And you're probably just starting to kind of see that now. So like in that same vein, how do you kind of see your career evolving now that you're kind of gym ownership, you've got staff, you've got rent to pay, you've got, all of these things that are new to you. How do you see your career evolving from, a coach to having all of that extra pressure and underneath you?
I don't necessarily look at it as pressure. I don't know. I feel like these things are kind of happening for us. I don't know. It's weird. Like we're able to grow and become like kind of the people we need to be to make this successful through all of the tasks and the opportunities that are kind of presented to us on a day to day basis. Like whether it's me being on a phone call, or having 10 discovery calls in a day, or having like back to back consults. Each one of those experiences is making me a little bit better for whatever else is down the road for me. So I'm not exactly sure what that looks like. I'm kind of just trying to like be in the moment right now and where we are. It's not too often that um, open a gym and are able to kind of see your dreams come true. I mean, this has been, me and Laken has been working on this since, 2019. We went through pandemic, we went through, a lot of stuff to like get to where we are today. So um, I'm I'm very much trying to just stay kind of in the moment and appreciate where we are today, because in a lot of challenging days, um, getting to this point, and it's kind of beautiful to see you know, I don't know, always compare it to like a really long, grueling workout, right? It's like in the middle of it, you just put your head down, but when you're done, it's just like it's beautiful, right? It's just like wow, I did that, you know, we did that, right? We finished that, right? And of course, we're not finished, but we have a lot of work to do. So,
Yeah, I always say you never regret a workout,
yeah,
right? No matter how much you don't want to do it, and no matter how much you hate doing it while it's happening, you
hmm
never regret it. And I guess the same can kind of be true for, doing the boring work and putting your head down and grinding. It's like
hmm
you're not ever going to regret actually doing that stuff, right?
yeah,
So this kind of brings me to the next questions. Like, obviously Jeff and I are at the forefront of Greenlight Personal Training as a brand, and in itself it's an emerging brand, very much. Very few locations, but probably a unique model in the marketplace. And we had, or at least Scott and Dave, our other partners, had a relationship with you guys before. But what kind of made you decide to go the franchise route? We're probably not a traditional franchise in the sense that most people think of, but what kind of made you guys decide to go that way instead of building out your own brand and opening up your own studio the other way?
yeah. I have to be honest here. Like, you know, making that decision was a really tough one for me. I'm not sure if it was for Laken, but for me, it was. I think just we had built, you know, our last gym, our last name, you know, we had built that up and we had put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and time into that. So it took a lot for me to like, thought about it, I prayed about it a lot, I talked to my wife about it, about like that, making that decision. But it kind of boiled down to um, us knowing you guys and having, the trust within you guys and what you guys are doing. We have been working with Scott and Dave for quite a long time, and you guys have similar, if not the same, values for us in your approach to coaching, um, and the way that you guys have a sustainable system for not only the business owners but also for the coaches coming in. I think that was one of the biggest things, is that obviously, like coming from the background I came from, like grinding in the gym as a personal trainer, I want to make sure that we are able to provide solid careers for our coaches, and that this is something that is, very lucrative for them, and also at the same time they're supposed to make an impact on their clients' lives. Um, and I know what it was like to make $15 an hour and train 12 people in one day, right? Um, and working with you guys, like I saw, and I mentioned this a few times, but like I saw that you guys' values and what you guys are offering, the systems that you guys have put together, was very much what we were moving towards and trying to do already. And you guys already had built it out for yourselves. So I always why reinvent the wheel, and if someone has already done it for you, you know, that's kind of where I was when we made that decision.
Awesome. That was a very heartwarming answer. I love it. So, I mean, that's your story. That's kind of brings you to where you are now. I mean, one thing that we like to get out of the guests that we have on here is just kind of like, let's look at the industry. I mean, because all three of us have been in this industry for a very, very long time, and doing different things. But, in your mind, Deonte, where do you think that the fitness industry is headed based on not only your experiences, but what you see around you, and what the clients that you're working with and their needs and stuff like that? What's your take on this? Like, where do you think the industry is going?
Uh, I think the industry, and I think just from the conversations I'm having on a day-to-day basis, our clients that are in the gym, and just what I'm seeing around me right now, I think is moving more towards like a holistic approach where clients are looking for more than just training and nutrition coaching, right? They need help around the other areas of their lives, like in just habits in general. And I think gyms are going to find themselves having to find a way to provide that service for them, and coach them in these areas. And I'm not sure if you guys are kind of experiencing the same thing, but a lot of the people that we get coming in have tried a lot of different stuff,
Hmm.
and 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 I think what's been missing for them is kind of what we are already doing, what we offer to our clients, and it's the other 23 hours and coaching them on the habits to help them sustain what um, the results they're getting. Right? It's it's one thing to come into the gym and work out with your trainer. It's another thing to wake up at the same time every day or go for a walk every single day. And like these are simple habits, but a lot of people aren't executing them. So I think these gyms are going to have to transition a little bit away from the PT and nutrition model and start to think about some lifestyle coaching and how to add that into their space.
Yeah, I find that to be very, very interesting because for, for the longest time, gyms didn't even offer nutrition. And
Right.
then nutrition became kind of like the new thing to add on.
Mm-hmm.
And but at the end of the day, in order to make real change, even going back to whenever gyms actually started in the 1980s or 70s or whenever it was, in order for people to make real change, they had to look at all aspects of their life.
Yeah,
Just because you started to
absolutely.
work out doesn't mean that things were going to change. So, I mean, ultimately, that isn't different, right? But what we as fitness professionals are now um, need to provide is increasing. But
Mm-hmm.
that also creates the requirement for prices to increase,
Right.
right? Because if you're delivering more, then you should be, you know, charging more for your prices. But it brings in this crazy, dichotomy almost because what I'm seeing around us is a race to the bottom with big box gym prices.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just about getting people in the door in these big box gyms and, giving them access to this equipment. It's almost like the $200 a month, which used to be really expensive,
Mm-hmm.
is
It's becoming like the 9.99 a month. Yeah,
pretty much. And the 9.99 a month is like $1 a month,
I
down at Planet Fitness.
I
Like,
really think that they have a place in our industry though, because again, I think it's a cycle, right? They're each client that I've talked to have gone through this cycle of like, tried Orange Theory, tried
mhm.
CrossFit, sorry, not CrossFit. I tried the Big Box Gym. I had a nutritionist, tried this crazy diet, and they get to a point where they realize like this stuff worked until it didn't, and
Mhm.
there's other issues, and I can't tell you how many times I had someone come in and say, "Hey, I want to lose weight," and then it ends up being something else, right? And until
Right.
we're able to have that conversation with them, and that's one of the things I really appreciate about Greenlight and just our processes is that through intro and our discovery call, we're able to get real conversations with people just about weight loss, but like things that are happening in their lives. And this might be the first time in a really long time they've been able to have a real conversation about where they are, where they really are, and what they're really feeling, and how it's affecting them. Sometimes they can't even talk to their spouses about it. So um, I think that that kind of cycle of starting there and realizing that it's not just a weight problem or it's not just about movement, it's deeper than that, that it kind of takes them going through that so that they can kind of see the value of what we have and what we're starting to offer, what we offer for our clients.
I think you're bang on. I think there's more people that are willing to spend more on solving these issues than there's ever been. And I think that it's taken that 150, 250 membership for 10 years to kind of bridge the gap between
Mm-hmm.
what we're doing now and what was originally sold in like early 2000s, right? Like
Yeah.
before CrossFit came out or the boutique studio really kind of took hold. And I just think there's more people that are valuing their health and wellness at a level than there ever has been in the world. And so I think that this is just going to keep pushing what we can provide because what we're doing isn't, we're not charging more, we're providing more. Like we're doing better. We're giving them what they actually need, but there's finally enough people that are willing to invest in this and are seeing the results and are getting the value from it, that I think that's where the real success and that's where the future is going to be continue to go for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll ask both of you this then. So how do you think that, coaches should position themselves, to solve these problems? Because the one thing that I find is that marketing doesn't change, because it's hard to market that change that you guys are talking about. It's not, people aren't not necessarily attracted to a message like that.
Mm-hmm.
They're still attracted to the detox tone, fat burn, right? They're still attracted to that.
Yeah.
And so I think what we are trying to prove, and you guys can tell me if you think differently, but marketing is marketing. You may have to use that messaging sometimes, but it's about your processes and discovery and relationship building with the client, to uncover what's really going on and then help them with those things, right?
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. A lot of times, like I have these, people come in and say, "Hey, I saw the ad for the 13-week challenge. What's that about?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's kind of just like, I almost want to say like that's out there so that you can click and you can talk to us. And this is really about, like I mean, but like that's what it is attractive to people.
Yeah.
Like shorter like time frames. Like no one wants to hear like, "Hey, come talk to us. We'll teach you how to change your life and we'll work out for the next, year and a half," or what. They don't want to hear like that, how long it's going to take, but that's real. Like that's what true change is, right? It takes a long time. And I don't know. I think that trainers can start to position themselves in a way that they are able to really connect with the people they're coming in contact with on like a, not just, I'm gonna give you a great workout, but like really, it could be as simple as asking them like, "Hey man, how was your day today?" Right? Because people really, I think people are like gravitating more to that human interaction than, and I know there's a lot of online fitness. There's a big movement for it right now, but I think that people crave people and they just want to be around other people. So I think that human interaction is going to be a big part of it, and it's very attractive to want to like leverage your time a little bit better with the online method. But if you can get in front of people and kind of just be personable and work on building relationships, that's kind of I think the way that the business is going, especially with a lot of people working from home nowadays. Like the last thing they want to do is be on another screen.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a very, very good point.
I think he's bang on. I'm going to jump in here, Dan. It's to position. If you want to go into paid marketing, we can talk about that on another podcast. Yeah, you're going to have to speak the game. You're going to have to play the game. But if you're a trainer and you're in the phase where you've left and you're renting space, and it's all going to be about what you offer. And there's two things. You start offering more. Start doing more. The stuff that you want to do, people want it. And so you need to start doing it. And then you need to charge a heck of a lot more than you're charging right now. And I think that's how you position yourself. And once you sell it once, or once you get a couple and you're like, wow, this is one, changing people's lives at a level that you really wanted to do. And two, people are happy to pay for it. Well, then all of a sudden the next levels are going to open up for you pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, this is a long one. We'll end it there. But Deonte, man, thank you. Thank you for jumping on with us. It was really fascinating to kind of hear your story. I think a lot of people, especially trainers, kind of will resonate with that. And I found it very interesting. So thanks for being on here, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me, guys. Again, it's a pleasure to be here and to be able to share my story with you guys' audiences. Yeah.
Love it. Well, that's a wrap today. Yeah. So thanks, boys, and we'll chat next time.
All right.
Oops.